Hi and welcome to day 18 of the Dry Jam Plan. Today I want to talk about social media really and other cultures around the alcohol-free space, sober space, whatever you want to call it, because everybody's different. We all have our own personal experiences around alcohol. And I've always been more on the compassionate, don't worry about it. It is what it is at the minute. You'll get there in the end type of person. I don't want to come across as preachy with anybody, and I hope I've not come across as preachy in any of my podcasts. I see myself as an educator, which I love to do. I love to learn. I love to share my knowledge and expertise around alcohol and how it affects us, our body, our brain, our relationships, and lots of external factors. But I know there are other sober coaches out there that are very disruptive, in your face, really preachy. And that's not to say that that's not wrong, because I think we're all different. We all come at it from a different perspective and share how it's worked for us. So I just wanted to share that compassion, and I'm not saying that these other coaches don't have compassion, because I know quite a few people in the sober space now, and I do know they've got compassion. But I think with alcohol, because it can be such an ingrained habit within us, we need to understand why, and that's because it's got a very addictive nature to it. If we drink it on a regular basis for long enough, there's a high chance that we will become addicted to it. Now, was I addicted to it? I've sort of turned this over in my head, I don't know how many times. I always said I'd had an issue, or I might have said a problem, but because it is such an addictive substance, I think maybe I was addicted to it. Like I've been addicted to sugar, like I was addicted to the shopping channels when I was at home with my daughter, when she was very young and I was sat at home bored. I used to buy the most stupidest things. People get addicted to exercise. People get addicted to gambling, to pornography, to gaming, to lots of things. But the word addiction, when used in sort of the context of alcohol, it conjures up lots of different images, doesn't it? It conjures up this person that's down and out, that's drinking from a paper bag, sat on the park bench, or in a doorway, in a sleeping bag, homeless. And that's just not true. But there's no shame in having a habit around alcohol. There's still such a stigma attached to it. I know when I post on my socials, if I put a poll out there, or if I put something on socials that's asking a question around alcohol, I get very little interaction. I get interaction from friends that know me well and that are quite happy to comment, because they're quite happy in their drinking habits. But not very many other people comment. And I find it really interesting, because are people frightened of being judged? there's lots of people that come forward and will say, hey, I've been alcohol free for 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, and we celebrate that together. But there's a lot of people out there that are questioning their drinking. And I think to come at it from a very compassionate, understanding side is my way. That's my way of dealing with my clients and supporting my clients. It is, and I say it so many times on my posts, it's not your fault, and it really isn't your fault. It's all to do with the addictive nature of the ethanol, which is the alcohol that we're drinking. Over time, it just gets a hold of us. And I think the longer we drink, the more we need to consume. If you listen to yesterday's episode, when I talk about the neurotransmitters and GABA, which is the chemical that slows our brain down, which it gives us that relaxing feeling to start with. If we continue to drink, the alcohol actually has an effect on the neurotransmitter. And we need more and more alcohol to get that chilled out feeling and that de-stress feeling. And that's when we can get on that slippery slope. Whereas when I started with a couple of glasses of wine and then went on to a bottle, then a bottle and a half, and there were occasions when I had 2 bottles, I just think now, that was in 2019 when I decided to give up, where would I be now? And, I try not to think about it too much, but, what does your gut tell you around your drinking? I mean, if you've gone well over halfway into January without drinking, I'm hoping that these episodes are helping. I'm hoping that you are understanding why you probably drink more than you want to, and understanding the nature of alcohol and how it affects our body and our mind. Because when February comes around, we all have a choice, don't we? And whether we drink or not. For me, I did 30 days and then decided to do another 30 days and then another 30 days. And it got to a year and, I thought, I quite like this non-drinking Carol. And I sort of carried on. But whether you decide to drink in February or whether you've already started to drink throughout January and you found you couldn't do it, it was too hard. I mean, one of the ladies I do a 30-day alcohol experiment in at Mindspace, which is the local charity in Stamford, near where I live. And one of the ladies who is around alcohol all the time, who actually works in a hotel, went away to Wales and had her 50th birthday. And we had a conversation around it. And it was a matter of, if you feel like drinking, then drink. If you don't want to drink, then don't drink. And it really is a choice. And it really wouldn't have mattered whether or not she had a drink or not. Because the important thing is awareness around that. And I think if you are drinking in January, or you're thinking about drinking in February and going back to, your normal drinking habits, then this podcast and this series of the Dry Jan plan has really sort of hopefully opened your eyes and made you more aware. And I think having compassion from someone else, like a coach like me, and giving yourself some grace and letting yourself off the hook when maybe you've not reached that benchmark that you want to reach. Again, it's not your fault. And I think it's really important to understand that we only know what we know. we've only got the tools in our tool bag to bring up when we get a craving or a trigger. If we're surviving on willpower, then that's a really difficult place to be, because willpower and just changing our behaviour does not work long term. It doesn't. And I think that's why, people that join traditional routes to giving up alcohol, have to have that community and that full-time constant support and going to meet with like-minded people. And that's not just AA, there's lots of other places out there. There's Aspire and Smart and, Smart Recovery. There's lots of different places. But just changing your behaviour and just trying to change your behaviour without changing your mindset and your thought processes around alcohol, it's like just putting a sticking plaster on the wound and keep redressing it and redressing it and redressing it, and it never actually healing. To heal and to completely lose your desire for alcohol, if that's your end game, I don't know if it is or not, or even to moderate, you've got to change the way that you think about alcohol. There's no other way around it. And that's not as difficult as you might think. There's so many community groups out there, that you can start off with. There's so much literature out there. There's so many podcasts out there that you can just educate yourself. And that education and knowledge around your drinking patterns and what triggers you and when your cravings pop up and how you see it affecting your relationships, your working life, your health, you can start to just change the way you think. Now, using a coach, you can get there much quicker, for sure, because you've got the expertise and experience from the coach. Or like me, I didn't have a coach. I just did the 30-day experiment with Annie Grace, and just, learnt from the videos and things that I got from her, read things, listened to podcasts. And that's how I started my journey. So it is possible to do it, not on your own, because you always need knowledge, because knowledge is power, but it's only powerful if you put it into practice. So, there's no point working with a coach if you're not going to put into practice what's been, what you're learning from the coach. And maybe I say homework in inverted commas, if there's any extra stuff to do, like maybe journaling how you feel, or listening to particular podcasts or doing some reading. You've got to be in feet first. And that's why when people come to me, if they're not completely ready, I'm not in the business of trying to cajole them or talk them into working with me or working with anybody else for that matter, because you've got to come to a point where you feel ready to tackle it. I did a whole decade of trying to do it myself, promising myself on a Monday morning I wouldn't drink until Friday, and then by Wednesday I'd caved in. You have two choices, you either take on board that you need to make changes, and I think deep down we know for sure whether or not drinking is affecting our health, our relationships, our work, the quality time we should be spending with our kids and loved ones. And if we're hungover, or we're foggy-headed, or we're in a mood and we're feeling irritable, and we're not getting on as well as we think we ought to be getting on, and we know that alcohol's holding us back, then maybe it's time just to take that first tentative step into being curious and seeing what will happen if I carry on through into February. We're all different. We all take different paths. But what I want to say is, don't beat yourself up. Don't get frustrated. Don't get annoyed with yourself. Don't worry about what other people are thinking. And definitely don't do it for somebody else, because that breeds resentment. If you say to your partner or the kids or whoever, grandkids, I'm going to do this, and in your head you're thinking, I'm going to do it for them, or even tell them that you're going to do it for them, and you have a really tough time and you're really miserable because you feel like you're missing out, it does breed resentment on that person, because you want that recognition from them that they're actually, you're actually doing it for them. And when that's not forthcoming, you get angry, you get bitter, you get annoyed. Lots of different emotions come up. Whereas if you're doing it for you, to change how you feel about you, then you've only got responsibility to you. And then that doesn't matter if you have a blip. It doesn't matter if you start drinking again. It doesn't matter if you have a week on, a week off, a month on, a month off. Annie says it takes between 8 and 13 times to be successful, to get on top of our drinking habits. So keep that in mind. Keep going. Do what you can do. And this has been a very long episode, not 5 to 10 minutes long. I'm currently on 17 minutes and counting. But I just wanted to make it personal to you. Excuse me. That don't give yourself a hard time. Give yourself a bit of grace. And just be gentle with yourself. And it will happen, but you have to put the work in. You have to learn, you have to gain that knowledge. Not changing your behaviour, but changing your thought processes around what you believe alcohol gives you. And does it really give you what you think it gives you? So you take care, and I'll catch you again tomorrow. Bye.